Good morning. This is the latest in our series of oral histories of folks in German Village that have had a lot to do with things that have gone on here. And today we have a very special guest. It's October 2012. Connie Swain. Welcome, Connie.
Thank you. Thank
Great
you, Bill.
to have you here.
Thank you.
And you've had a lot to do with many things in the village. And let me just start and have you go through a little bit of your personal history, where you grew up and how you came to German Village.
I moved here in German Village in 1975 and moved here from Chicago. German Village was the urban environment that existed in Columbus at that time. And so I was in my late 20s, and I had been living in Chicago. That's what we wanted. You know, we wanted something that felt urban, and so we bought a house. Well, actually rented for a couple years and bought a house here in German Village.
And your husband, Marshall
He was
Swain.
teaching at the university. He was a professor at Ohio State. And so then we had our daughter here in '79.
And you spent you had a professional career as well, as I understand.
I was a teacher in Worthington.
So you
schools.
commuted between
Yes.
German Village and Worthington for your teaching.
Yes.
So you came in. You came here in 1975.
Mm-hmm.
What? Obviously, you like the urban environment. Tell us
Right.
what else you saw in German Village that attracted you.
It just was warm and friendly, and early on what we realized is it was really easy to meet people and make friends, because I think so many people were coming to Columbus from somewhere else just like us. A lot of the people that were moving into German Village did not really maybe have a history in Columbus, so they were looking for new friends and wanting to make new acquaintances, and it was really fun.
And if we had been here with you in 1975 when
Yeah.
you arrived, what was different about German Village compared to how it is here in 2012?
When you ask that question, it's really interesting to me, because my first impulse is not so different. Now, we know that it's a huge difference in that so many improvements have happened to so many properties. All these wonderful restaurants have come to the village, and the park has made such amazing improvements. But somehow, when you ask that question, I feel that the place still feels like the same.
The core of the village was here. It just had to
Yeah,
be improved.
yeah.
I think one thing you mentioned when we were off camera was 3rd Street looked a little bit different in terms of the businesses that were in operation there.
Well, 3rd Street, I think that it didn't look that, no, it did not look that different. It does not look that different.
Well, you said there were more attorneys' offices and that.
Well, at the time, there were things that were happening somewhere in the 80s where a lot of people were becoming interested in German Village, people from all over Columbus. And one of the things that was an interest was people that were working downtown, particularly lawyers, loved these houses and the size of them, I guess, because they really liked making a house into a law office. That would be one thing. So that was happening quite a bit, and that was one of our issues that we grappled with as an early historic district. The question that people would have is, well, is that a good thing? You know, we want people to come and be in the village and love it as much as we all do, but how should these buildings be used? This is a residential home right now. Should we make it into a commercial? And if it is made into a commercial, what's the best type of commercial property? Would a law office be a good use of that property? So there were a lot of zoning questions that started coming up that some really smart people down here in German Village were asking extremely good questions about the future.
And we're going to get into some of that later in terms of your involvement with the guidelines, but before we do that, I want to take you back to your original involvement in village affairs, which, as I understand it, came about because you were a mother.
Right, right.
Tell us about that.
There were a group of us that had small children here in the village, and we got together because of the kids. And I mean, the kids were really little. We're talking, mine at the time was, 2 or 3 years old when all of us started getting together and trying to figure out how to help each other with our children. Because as I mentioned before, we weren't people that had families in Columbus to help us, So what we did was we would get together and talk about things and things that we would need for our families and the kids. And the playground in Schiller Park was really in poor shape. So we would go out there to the park.
Let me just
Yeah.
interject. Who were some of these fellow mothers that you were commiserating
Well,
with?
many of them are fellow mothers that are still around that you know and
That's
love.
what I want you to talk about.
Elspeth Willoughby, Janet Druin, a friend of ours that has now moved away a long time ago, Wendy Parker. She was tremendous. But Janet was so involved with Friends of Schiller and Elspeth all along. Yeah.
All right, well, keep going.
So
You're now
okay, so
talking
now
about
we're at the
Friends of Schiller.
playground. The playground was just total mess, and so we're trying to figure out, what could we do? I mean, we even talked about, because we ended up doing this, but we said, well, we can paint this stuff. I mean, it was chipping away, and the swings weren't working, and I mean, you name it, it was a problem. And so we thought, well, we can, do some of this, and so we made an appointment with the director of Columbus Recreation and Parks, Mel Dodge, and there were a group of 4 or 5 of us mothers, and of course none of us had ever done anything like this in terms of working on a park or a playground, and he was very encouraging that we work on the park, and we had come up with a name. We'd called ourselves the Friends of Schiller Park.
But this was no incorporated entity or anything. It was just a group of
No,
ladies.
this is we just made ourselves the Friends of Schiller Park because that's in fact what we decided to be. And the reason is when we first started talking about doing the playground, we called a meeting. We put an ad in the newspaper and said, anyone come join us that would like to talk about the park. And so at that meeting, there was this woman that walked in. Her name was Helen Wagner. I think, is it Wagner? Was the Wagner Brewery
I believe so.
company? Well, it was her father that owned that business. So she had a book of photographs. And in that book were all these photographs of Schiller Park and how it used to look. And we were just amazed. I mean, because the park did not look like the photographs that she was showing us.
So this gave you a new vision of what it could look like.
It was just like a lightning bolt that came down and hit us all at the same time. I mean, it was just clear that this park needed our love and attention, and that's what we went about doing.
Another thing you told me was that Mel Dodge seemed to see your group immediately as somebody that, to put it bluntly, he could use too to help further the Columbus Parks.
I think so. I mean, I think that he was encouraged that a group of citizens would come and just say, what can we do? How can we help make this park better and improve upon it?
Because that hadn't
And
happened.
it had not happened. In Columbus, we now proudly have many wonderful friends of parks. But at the time, there had not been. The Friends of Schiller Park was the first group that officially called themselves, the Friends of an individual park.